These are some of the sounds of a culture that's separate from ours, using a different language, and yet at home within our own frontiers. The culture, the language are Gaelic. The territory is the Outer Hebrides.
Shalgun van de ceilidh, deich cain hefna strí, cruach ag di pethgol le gie, sy'n halafedd chliant hydam. Nif ne garasig na nwalan, is sloes rug charig is chleich.
Sate hou hami, snachait min alle hjalt in jorst. Get strepen warning raunetje, han ik mi bjaunten lois.
This film is the story of a journey through two contrasting parts of the Hebrides, two different aspects of Gaelic culture. We've chosen Lewis and Harris in the north, Barra in the south. In both places, in rather different ways, the culture is affected by work and religion, by the crises of present day and memory of times past. In old times, among tiny communities of farmers and fishermen, working women and fighting men, a grand poetry and music evolved, unwritten, shared by all, parallel to the mainstream of European arts. It still survives, but life in the islands is changing, slowly in some parts, more rapidly in others, and as people change, their music changes with them. In the Hebrides today, Gaelic culture is at a crossroads. In the village of Lewis, on Lewis, the main occupation is the old one of weaving, but the song in praise of Lewis is of a new kind. Even now, old cultures survive alongside the new. In the past, the clan chieftains had their household bards, and today many villages have their own people's poet, a crofter, weaver, fisherman like themselves, honored for his gifts, but considered as a normal member of the community. In the past, the bards made long poems in praise of the chieftain and his courage in battle. Today, the bards have other functions, other themes. The sense of history is still with them. The islands are full of ruins, visible remnants of the tragic past. But some bards consider it their duty to bring the hard facts of more recent existence to their listeners. Murdo MacFarlane, the bard of Melbost, sings his anti-militarist poem recalling the days of the First World War, when out of Lewis's tiny population, more than 1,000 men were killed.
Gaungen grish olan lavas of larna stinch voice to file for la yarakri voice to grish Achrach van een alloe, ik hem voeg Cailem las, Heldog goed in a proei, Staat de boen lam an rai, Alma graag die boen meke groei, Neige graag. O valigie mochri, Keine koi, Tasin toe hoek, koi machendal, heel kutjes marus toe, Hartlein allersam, Agafijn boldoei, ach nam broer te devan, o valigie mochri, o valigie mochri. There's my father and mother. They couldn't talk English, with the result that the Gaelic was richer, of course. What the bard has to do today, he's got to do what these people were doing for the bards in the past. The bard's got to keep the edge on the language now. The duties of the bard, of course, is not only to sing songs, it is also the duties of bard to bring before people problems of the day. I have a song there composed, the Terchike, the escapist. And like all escapists, he doesn't face the problems facing mankind. What he does is try and escape from them. And the method he adopts is very unorthodox. He pulls the blanket over his head. And he says in Gaelic, Herik ik een zeugel boen was kjaun. Herik ik tarik in Fatima mi kjaun. Oh, die tarik is tarik mi sound. Let the world go hang. I'm going to put the blanket over my head. And I'm going to snore away. Let the world go bang. You see, the nearer you are to Stornoway, that's where the pollution comes, ashore. And the nearer you are to the point of pollution, you succumb. Now, that's a difference, you see. In my young day, they'd be singing this. But how can they, you know? They have succumbed to what's coming ashore. This is the point of invasion, you see, Stornoway.
Stornoway is a small town of just over 5,000 people, but in effect, it's a powerful little metropolis. At once a seaport, an airport, a centre of the tweed industry, and the main shopping market of the Outer Isles. Cosmopolitan, too. In its streets, you may hear Pakistani drapers speaking Gaelic to customers in from the countryside, or Basco-Bulgarian, spoken by the men off the trawlers and cannery boats. It's the focal point for modernization, urbanization, and so for change. Fishing, once a traditional part-time alternative to crofting, is a multinational business nowadays with little enough local control.
Right, this one's left here then. What about 6 pounds? 620, 6 pounds, 620, 640, 660, 680, 7 pounds, 720, 740, 760, 780, 8 pounds, 820, 860, 880, 9 pounds, 920, 940, 960, 980, 10, 20, all 10, 20.
Many small farmers are part-time fishermen, part-time weavers of tweed. Not long ago, tweed manufacture was an entirely domestic affair. The wool of the crofter's own sheep was shorn, washed, dyed and spun at home and woven by skilled neighbours who were paid in peat or potatoes. Nowadays, the weaving is still done by the crofter working a hand loom in a shed beside his home. But the yarn comes to him already dyed and spun from the mills, and it goes back to the mills to be finished and marketed. In the villages, it may look like cottage industry, but in fact, it's deep within the orbit of modern industrial capitalism. In places such as Lewis, life is less communal than in former times. The sense of local communities is breaking down, and occasions for music making are changing too. The old ceilidhs were free-for-all singing and dancing parties held in a croft kitchen or barn. Now, spreading from Stornoway under the impulse of mass entertainment fashions, the ceilidhs are becoming more and more a matter of admission by ticket dances in the hotels, and of concerts given to a passive audience with mics and amplifiers and all the apparatus of modern music making. But the local music stands up to it well.
Si mogachi skach ni heintje fas ha mi nu mamile fogu ich mograi snarchi mi yaloch jalrish nanol kurian yaloch kur meintjen ertoy Kurnjaintjen voatoch snö jorui vom hul små småaner mogachi serpaltjen morun hamish utoljachi guelan mongrai ayausi avalesan rominam fasht ayausi mogachi skach ni heintje fas ha mi nu mamile pogu ich mograi.
A proper ceilidh dance now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back onto the stage, Island Express.
The dominant religion of the Northern Hebrides is the Protestantism of the Free Church. Severe, fundamentalist, with little regard for the fripperies of secular song. Instrumental music is dispensed with in its services, and only the psalms are used. Hymns, after all, are merely the works of man, while the psalms are backed by the infallibility of the scriptures. By its conservatism, rather than out of respect for tradition, the Free Church shows some peculiarities of folklore, especially in the music. The words of the psalms are metrical Gaelic versions. The original tunes are four-square enough, but the congregation, singing in response to the precentor and aiming at unison among themselves, draw the tune out so long and with so many ad-libs of phrasing and ornament that what emerges is a wavering torrent of melody that has been described as waterfall music or surge song. Perhaps it's all the more fervent because the deeper the sense of sin, the more ecstatic is the liberation. From the Protestant north, we move to the Catholic south, to the island of Barra at the lower end of the Hebrides. It has its hard rock crags, some of the oldest rocks in the world, the geologists say. But in the main, it's soft and green, and the beaches are dazzling. Small as it is, Barra remains a powerhouse of traditional Gaelic culture, and proud of it. They say that as the old chieftains finished a meal in their stronghold of Kishmal Castle, a trumpeter would blow a fanfare and proclaim, "The great MacNeil of Barra, having finished his meal, the princes of the earth may dine." And songs are still alive that boast of the old glories of Barra, evoking Neil of the Castle and Roderick the Tartar, and Gilonan, the warrior who gave wine to his horses and shod them with gold.
And do chapel Gudjeva gurjav ach Barrie Barrie Jan wuch lachach
Castle Bay is the only township on the island, and to the casual visitor it offers a pretty sleepy-looking scene. But that scene is deceptive. Under the calm surface, there's plenty of vigour and spirit and a keen sense of sociability. The fragmentation and loneliness that pierce so many modern societies have little effect among Barra's communities, who, few and scattered as they are, live an intense social life. And a vivid expression of that life is the ceilidh. Of course, in the ceilidhs, they don't only sing about ancient heroes. They've plenty of songs tied to traditional work and skills, such as the so-called walking songs. Once they were used by women to accompany the hard work of shrinking the tweed. Nowadays, they're used as social songs, community songs. But many of the singers still recall the weary hours at the walking board.
We used to sing the way at the farm and singing away just the way they sing now. Oh, we had a good life. It was marvellous. We used to have our own amusement. There was nothing for us to walk from here down to Northby to a dance and walk back again. I may leave our boots in a pit stack till we come back in the early hours of the morning.
The period I was born into myself, the beginning of the century, I saw more transitions and changes than people would have seen in 1,000 years prior to that, I think. Because I remember the tail end of the primitive life, the thatched cottage and all the rest of it.
And then there was the old stove, and you put your fire on. It was peat, of course, then. There was no such thing as coals in these days. It was the peat.
Oh, it was all family work. That happened to be really in these days, there was big families. There was always 3 or 4 boys in the families, and it was a family, always through the family. The island of Barra was one of the best islands for ripening. It was sickle cut, and the women folk were good at that too.
Oh, very often the daughters were away at the fishing, the herring fishing, you know.
There was a wealth in herring fishing in Barra in my younger days. There used to be 300 to 400 fishing boats lying at Castle Bay.
Oh, whenever the boats came in with the herring, you started. And some of them were really marvellous. You could do so many herring in a minute, no bother.
Memories of only a few years back seem to evoke an already long-gone way of life. And in many parts of the Hebrides, though the outside world looms nearer year by year, there's still a sense of being on the far edge of the map. On Barra, even the aircraft landing ground is underwater twice a day with the tides. Historical memories stay green in these little communities, and many of the songs recall vividly the tragedies of clan feuds, of the clearances in which so many crofters were driven from their farms to satisfy the landlord's greedy whim, and the emigrations, forcible some of them, that stripped the islands of much of their population.
This leves glinja duchish, et hanskam bignas duchganan, alocher tchedig vore. Chanaich mi fegnen garliche, nach kiepeden is shalakeden, nach buint o hidnen alapenach, Ketue the chelevis kodor, and juna bohenyalinyat, senjechagokanaregig, torig sues karnichaf, is konjach van kankotach. Be min jin trams mi jerulach, noit hi mi gaule selegit, a chi the glaun se jeheltach, sagonet gleskes borschal.
A few years ago, it seemed social life on Barra was losing its vigour, but local folk say it's picking up again. Many who'd sought work on the mainland and found themselves in the dull queues of Glasgow return now to the building trade or to fishing.
Captain Nujam Sefo Hudam Muada Huye Gastudu Salaya Sur Cochinga Dui Gleishin Gusataya Gönyaras Farinyarin Ishikiri Chinya Varai Chwyddi sliasig canai, Fechting halag o modd gani. Gwyniar sasylini, Tosioch liani strwn a fidw, Sisynach i'r cochilu, Ach ei gilyn y fi jana. Snwad y chwlig eistach rifidyn, Pars gan chanaf a sy'n I brw, Smoioch ei arif I sinjag, Si chin y hyd fach cniles bodja.
Traditionally, the music is as much an outdoor as an indoor affair. And if many of the songs are inspired and shaped by the realities of work and the grapple with nature, the Gaelic world is also rich in songs that float tranquilly between two worlds, the natural world of the landscape and another world of hovering mystery. If that song seems to carry us through the gates of dream, don't let us be fooled. Barra may be remote, but its people are well aware of the outside world. And even old women who are storehouses of folklore are no strangers to the name of John Travolta. And the ceilidhs aren't merely an occasion for neighbours to get together to exchange gossip and news of what's happening in the great world. They're a chance to air the widest range of local music and poetry. The evening starts with a medley of squeezebox tunes. Then the local bard offers a few verses, comic, mildly scurrilous, poking sly fun at some local characters.
Bert van Heentje trush van hoen, karamier, kalakut, en jennig lenan go margun, je man goers. A ganelt mi has, tullig soesters san a rood. Jon joon che chalodig carrot got a shelter, hagus carrot, hag hane, je de jelen kinsje vriak. Snor jo kreime, janum pilgagiel. Gyfer gawr anel y cwdwch chwys yn hoch dy grwysig, nôl i'r abig ac ach dwni fas yn wy, can o'r drech yn y sen ys crolwy.
Just a húrtúan, Sadile Shavdach Anur,
There's a whole range of lyrical songs, some old, others of recent composition. For make no mistake, this is still a living tradition that doesn't merely live on the past.
Nach eich gynna haien snymran tolthope o netige kono elu o netige kono
Sanara kjövinjal i Gulfostran. Smasan lefanya av eldumari. Snachliken damal Latinam chai. Skanda din fanya
Naken koshning tuash aval bisham bate ukach avuai smachlen yesmi fachkel a kanyag moguan Viken janin bottom yegan hoppen ruai Betu heneleti Skwane juman gor Smita rache daneleti
Mouth music is a Gaelic speciality, often used for dances when no instrumentalist is present. Some of it is bagpipe imitation, real virtuoso stuff. The pace quickens as the evening wears on and the atmosphere gets warmer. The old chorus songs, once allied to work, now round off the ceilidh. Sometimes the words are hard to recall, but the spirit remains. And what is the future of this fine and vital culture?
I envy you people, because you're not faced without problem, you know. That is a problem of a language and culture. Its demise, stark naked facing, you know. You can't appreciate that unless you're in my position, you see. It's really a soul-killing thought to think that the language you're composing and the language your fathers, your ancestors, that it's disappearing. It's really soul-searing thought to think of it. And when they were murdering our culture and our language, you stood by. And I think now you have a backlash of a guilty conscience. Now, I always say, who knows, but it's you people that will come to a rescue yet and save us from extinction. But what I say is, how I envy you people here who are not faced with my problem. Just imagine if you were going home tonight and you were saying to yourself, the language I'm speaking will be dead in another 60 years. Just imagine yourselves in my position. And you see, it's so discouraging, you see. But still we sing and still we make songs in spite of everything.
Papa molenubik, Papa molenubik, Papa molenubik, Asikallaram nachasu, Jigulani midyut,